Hello, everyone. Anything to anybody?
Hello. So the banks are now going to have this dog shit on their balance sheet.
I don't think the banks are going to take it back.
Yeah, they can't.
I think they're terminating the bank term funding. I call it the vestibule, the waiting room for bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Okay, David, let's just be very plain. The banks are not going to be concerned about taking back these bad loans. The banks are going to shut down.
Yeah, and I've had private discussions with people, and this is the only thing that's a little nerve-wracking. Let's say you have your life savings in banks or Fidelity or Schwab or Robinhood or Bank of America. I mean, this could be very, very and what they always say to me is be like, yeah, but they're insured by the FDIC and the equivalent, so it's protected. I'm like, are you sure?
Well, many of them are, David. They are. Now, let's just review some of the important events following Silicon Valley Bank. That was a year ago, right?
Yep.
Okay. The part that we were not told, I want to do a preface. The part we were not told until a couple months later with Michael Gill was that what caused the Silicon Valley Bank to collapse and to fail was the Mexican Sinaloa cartel moved $23 billion out. And the next day, they shut down the bank and declared bankruptcy failure. We weren't told that initially. We weren't told that it was a giant Mexican money laundering center.
I heard that there was a lot of Chinese. I heard that there was a lot of Chinese money in SVB.
Yes.
And that's why we bailed it out. We were I don't know if any of this is true because you read it online, but supposedly most of the money that was saved was foreign money that was bailed out.
That's probably true. It's consistent with what I hear and what I accept as real. And they are treasury bond owners.
There we go.
Okay, so remember, like 30 years ago, we used to hear, well, we got to be careful that our debt is not owned by foreigners or we will lose our sovereignty and lose control. Okay, we're there now. We're there now. And we've been there for 5 years. Okay, let me leave that alone now and just move to the sequence of events following Silicon Valley Bank.
Okay.
There was another bank called First Heritage that went into failure.
Yeah.
And there was another bank following that. It had the name First in it. I cannot remember the name. First Heritage and First something. I can't remember. Anyway, in response to that, JP Morgan did the acquisition.
Yeah.
They did the distress acquisition, merger acquisition. At the same time, Janet Yellen made a policy change at the Department of Treasury and said that they would do unlimited FDIC financing and funding to rescue banks. That was not the policy before.
Right.
Before we knew that the FDIC had a finite amount of funds, and Yellen with the Department of Treasury lifted that and said it would be whatever is necessary. What they were saying, David, was we're not going to allow depositor losses. Okay.
And then she said that it's not a uniform thing. It's on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, in other words, if you're our friend, we'll do it. If you're not,
sorry, Putin. Sorry, Putin.
Well, think of it differently. Think of it as if you're not cooperating from the Wall Street perspective, we're going to cut you out. Or if you don't cooperate with money laundering functions, we're going to cut you out. Or if you speak ill of Wall Street corruption in some other manner, we'll cut you out. Or if you have a certain degree of foreign depositors that we don't like, we'll cut you out. Okay, in other words, friend or foe.
Jim, let me just interject something real quick because a lot of people over the years after our conversations would write to me and say, you know, Jim's a wacko. you know, everything he's saying is so far out there, it's not real. Why don't people see and believe that there is this small group of people who control and run everything? Is it just too hard to accept? Or would they feel completely helpless if they actually believe that? Would it start a war? What's going on?
What proportion of your followers are that shallow?
Well,
is that over half?
Well, they're not necessarily my followers. I just get random people responding to me who see the videos, right? I would say it's more than half. More than half of the people.
More than half think I'm a wacko.
I get blowback on the things that I say.
Well, what you're getting blowback from is some of the dumbest people in the crowd who don't do any research, who listen to the mainstream news, who believe war is good for the economy, who are not aware of narco trafficking, who are not aware of the deep underground military bases,
Jim,
who don't know jack shit about anything.
This is the United States today. I just heard a stat. I don't know if it's true. I heard that more than 2/3 of people in the United States took the jab. Okay, and some outrageous number also supports funding Ukraine and funding all these different things. Jim, this is why I left the United States, because it's quite simple. If I don't agree with it and I can't change it, I got to go.
Well, you can always remain and try to use your endurance, because they're going to be exposed to the truth, and it's going to start with the mainstream news and the Substacks that are going to cover the Putin interviews. What do you think? What do you think stage 2 is going to be as a topic for Tucker Carlson?
Well, did you watch the interview?
I saw a portion of it.
Well, he didn't really. I'll tell you what I thought was the most interesting part of the interview. After I say anything Putin said was nothing revealing. If you look, I've listened to Putin for 10 years. You can listen to him. They have his speeches online.
I know.
And so he was just reiterating. I remember 10 years ago, he was begging reporters, please listen to what I'm telling you. Report this to your citizens. And of course they didn't. The part I found most interesting about that interview is when Putin goes, hey, I know that you applied for the CIA, talking to Tucker. Because most people, see, this is the problem. This is what I think the problem in the United States is. Everybody thinks that one man like Trump or Tucker or whoever is going to ride in on a white horse and change anything, and they're not going to have to do a freaking thing. Then their whole life, they'll be able to get up, drink their coffee, and go about their daily routine, and their life will go on unaffected. And I've been saying for years, it's going to take war. I think it's going to take blood at this point. It's going to take so much pain to really.
I understand.
So the thing is I'm glad Tucker did what he did, but I don't know if he's controlled opposition or not. I don't know.
I don't think he is.
But as long as he does stuff like that, then I'll take it, right?
Live long and prosper.
You can't always get what you want. You can't always get